Brownfield's Meghan Grebner with the latest Appetite for Pork report. Today, I'm talking with Dr. David Newman, Senior Vice President of Market Growth for the National Pork Board, about how your Pork Checkoff dollars are working to bring more U.S. pork to tables around the world. David, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Thank you. It's great to be here.
It sounds like producers' checkoff dollars have helped open some of those new distribution channels for them. But what about new consumers?
So the new consumers is a critically important aspect, and we must be precise in our outreach. The way I describe it is we need to fish where the fish are domestically. So I'll give you an example. We're successfully reaching multicultural consumers in key market areas like California, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas. A significant amount of the United States population lives in states that are actually not large hog production states. And that's really important for us to remember. We need to focus on where the consumers are. We need to focus where the consumers who are actually classified as heavy pork users, where they live. So in our multicultural efforts, we've seen good success in that, in creating an increase in sales. That's both volume and value. And that's not done just by putting pork on sale. And I think that's really important. This is about creating more everyday value for pork in its own unique ownable position. So the strategy is both short-term and it's long-term. We need more volume moved right now with the market conditions where they're at. But long-term, we need to establish trust and, most importantly, relevance with the future consumer of pork.
When you look at that future consumer, and especially when you're talking about some of those multicultural purchasers or users of pork, does that also, in terms of increasing value, help with diversifying offerings, maybe some of the cuts or the products that we don't think about in a mainstream usage, but diversifying those as well? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. So let's talk a little bit about who the consumer is. So we need to think about this generationally. So the long-term consumer that has driven a significant amount of sales in this country has been the baby boomer generation. But the future consumer is millennials, it is Gen Zs, right? And then it will be generation Alpha and Beta. Beta is the ones that are being born now in 2024. So they think differently, they act differently, they cook differently, portion size, packaging, all of those things matter. So as we start to think about how we position those products, it is different. And a way I like to explain it is, think about it as pork as an ingredient and not necessarily pork as center of plate, the way that we may have grown up or our parents may have presented that item to us. And so today, if you think about what's happening in fast food or quick serve restaurants, this is another great example. The explosive market for things like carnitas or for ramen, we're seeing items and recipes for items that expand way beyond what we would think traditionally with pork. And they're culturally relevant and they taste awesome. So they work really well with consumers.
Mapo tofu is a staple in our house, and that's pork as an ingredient and part of multicultural recipes and expanding taste and flavor. It's really awesome to watch other generations explore how awesome pork is as well.
It is. And on our one of our campaigns that we use in multicultural marketing for, especially for trying to reach the Hispanic consumers, is literally called Ponle Pork, which translates into add pork. So if you're thinking about carnitas or one of my favorite, El Pastor, this is about creating an experience around pork and celebrating its taste and flavor. And when we do that, we can drive demand. So it's really fun. It's an exciting time for pork as a protein.
David, anything else you'd like to add?
I would just say that at the checkoff, in my role as leading market growth, it's important that we really understand what our producers need and where the market is. And we understand that 2023 was a challenging year. 2024 could be another challenging year as well. But it's all hands on deck for demand, both domestically and internationally. And I do think and feel that the U.S. pork business is going to be in a really good position to create this ownable, relevant position as its own protein. So it gets me excited for the future of pork. And we just want to let all of the producer investors who pay into this program know that we're out there fighting for them every day.
David, thank you again so much for joining us today and talking about how the Pork Checkoff is building a bigger appetite for U.S. pork. You can find out more information at porkcheckoff.org/market growth. I'm Meghan Grebner for Brownfield.